cracking interview. I wanted to you're welcome to the Oscar show, and I had questions I wanted
Thank
to ask you about
you.
Best Buddies.
I am so excited to be here. How is everything going?
Everything is going great, Sophie. I've been thinking
Good.
about the walk and all that, and my shirt and the walk coming up so fast, and I had questions. You're welcome the Oscar show and ask you questions about being the area director for Best Buddies.
Perfect. I'm excited and ready to go.
Number one, how long have you been working for Best Buddies?
I have been working for Best Buddies for about a year and 2 weeks.
Yeah, just curious to know. So, what other things have you guys done with Best Buddies? I'm curious to know as the area director.
This year, given like the virtual year, or just in general, what other things do we
Both, and looking in the new year since things are getting better each day.
Yeah. Well, we focus a lot on writing grants. So we apply to different foundations to get funding for our programs. We focus on our big fundraising events like the Friendship Walk and Party for a Purpose. We work on, as you mentioned, expanding, finding new schools that we can open chapters at, getting new buddies, getting new volunteers, and finding, people who are willing to donate and be part of, part of our mission. So those are the major things that we work on. And in the new year, of course, we'll try to do our best to have some in-person events in the safest way possible. But in the meantime, just trying to continue our virtual stuff.
And the question is, just curious to know, what new people are you planning to hire for the new year with all these changes?
Well, we're still in that planning process now. We just are, because Chris moved to be an employment consultant and our program staff aren't local, in an ideal world, we would hire some local program staff. So somebody to run Citizens locally and somebody to run our Long Island programs. It's completely dependent on how things go when we budget and how much money we can fundraise, if we can afford to hire more people. So very TBD, but that's the goal.
So if I need anything, who should I go to since Chris has switched departments and until you hire someone new with all these changes in the new year?
So Casey is your main point of contact. So, she's the one who sends you all of the events every week, and that's who you correspond with on program stuff. So that's who will be your go-to. And if you have questions about the Friendship Walk, you can always ask me.
Like, looking in the near, will I ever hear of Casey for any other opportunities? If she has anything herself, she'll reach out.
You definitely will. Yes, she knows to let you know if things pop up. These days, it's just there aren't all that many options, and since we're virtual, it's pretty limited.
What outings are you guys planning for the new year for Best Buddies?
That's also a great question. So, of course, this year, everything had to switch virtual. So we weren't able to do lots of fun activities that we had planned. Chris and I had put together a great calendar for 2020 with events for citizens every single month. So ideally for 2021, we'll have some in-person opportunities in the safest way possible. We're going to try to do an in-person event, an in-person party for a purpose next fall. Even if we're able to, get groups in person, we'd like to do a sailing class. So we did a virtual sailing event last week and it was really fun and exciting. So that would be really cool. And I know we also want to continue doing happy hours like that we do at Blue Haven, at the karaoke night at Wicked Willie's. And we always like to do, workout classes, picnics. We like to do that EKS picnic day at Central Park. So lots of fun things that I'm really hoping that we can do. And if we can have in-person events, I hope that you can be there.
Sure. Since many outings were canceled at Best Buddies, what else has been happening since many outings have been canceled?
So, we've been putting together different virtual events and we add those to a calendar and send those out to our schools and our participants and citizens groups every week. So we've been doing lots of, virtual movie nights, virtual, I was going to say training days. We've done some, career development training days for our jobs participants, which have been really great. We like to do the virtual Zoom, virtual bingo and game nights, things like that. We're just trying to get as many people involved and have different Zoom opportunities and ways to connect virtually. And we did do our first ever virtual party for a purpose. So that was a big online event that we were planning for a while. And so hopefully we can start doing things in person soon, but we're trying to do as many events virtually in the meantime as we can.
Do you guys ever do weekend outings? Is another question for the new year, like Sunday nights and Saturday nights?
In person or virtual events?
In person and looking in the new year and
So yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's something that we used to do a lot. We would go bowling on the weekends, or we would do, one of our picnics. We had lots of weekend events. So that's definitely the goal. At this point, it's too difficult for us to know when we'll be allowed to do in-person events, but we always try to, switch off between weekday events and weekend events.
who's gonna host these events since Chris is no longer the program manager is another question.
It's a great question. So I think a lot of our in-person events will be run by some junior board members potentially, or volunteers. And, I'll be at as many events as I can be. And same with Eileen and Chris. They're still around. They may not be planning the event, but they'll be there in person if they can be. So I'd say more likely than not, I will be there. And other than that, maybe, some junior board members and hopefully some other staffers. And, coming into this new year, hopefully we'll be able to hire a few other staff members as well in New York City.
How many buddies do you guys match is the question.
How many buddies do we match across the entire organization?
Yes, I'm curious to know.
That is a great question. In New York alone, we have over 6,000 participants who are involved in our programs. That doesn't necessarily mean that every single person is matched in a friendship, but it does mean that they're part of our friendship program or jobs program. Here in New York City, we have over 200 people in the Citizens program, and and we have about 40 people in our jobs program. So those are some local numbers. According to our website, it says we have 130,000 participants. So that's a lot. And we apparently we impact 1.3 million people. We have almost 3,000 chapters. We're in 50 states, 56 countries, 6 continents, and have almost 1,500 buddies employed and about 1,200 ambassadors like yourself.
That's great.
Right now, given everything is virtual, it's been a little bit tricky to start new chapters, but we do have about 15 potential schools to start, as well as some corporate chapters. So hopefully we can continue opening and sustaining all of our programs, even though we're virtual right now. The goal in 2021 is to open at least 10 new chapters, which would be great.
Do you guys ever do weekend outings is another question for the new year, like Sunday nights and Saturday nights?
In person or virtual events?
In person and looking in the new year and
So yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's something that we used to do a lot. We would go bowling on the weekends, or we would do, one of our picnics. We had lots of weekend events. So that's definitely the goal. At this point, it's too difficult for us to know when we'll be allowed to do in-person events, but we always try to, switch off between weekday events and weekend events.
who's gonna host these events since Chris is no longer the program manager is another question.
It's a great question. So I think a lot of our in-person events will be run by some junior board members potentially, or volunteers. And, I'll be at as many events as I can be. And same with Eileen and Chris. They're still around. They may not be planning the event, but they'll be there in person if they can be. So I'd say more likely than not, I will be there. And other than that, maybe, some junior board members and hopefully some other staffers. And, coming into this new year, hopefully we'll be able to hire a few other staff members as well in New York City.
if I go to Indiana in July, since he spoke to me once before about this, which month would I know for Indiana if I hear from you or someone at Best Buddies?
It would be, oh, well, so this year's LC will not be in person. I do know that. But if it ever was to be in person, we would find out all of those details in May or June of each year.
Really?
Yes.
Which year? This year in 2020, it's not in person.
2021 will not be in person.
Really?
Yeah. Just because it's, I mean, it's just a lot of people that would be involved, and it's a huge expense for Best Buddies. And so it would be very difficult for us to pull that off this upcoming year, because we still don't fully know what will be allowed and if things can change so quickly.
My other question for you is when will the prizes be announced for the walk?
So we have different challenges that happen each week, and I send out the list of winners on Mondays. So it all depends on what the challenge is, and the dates for those specific ones. As far as the national incentive prizes, like that sheet that has all of the different, the water bottle or the backpack or whatever it might be, that all happens after the walk and is totally dependent on how much money you raise. So if you raise $100, then you get to choose for one prize from anything below that 100 level. So as soon as the walk is over, then you get all of the details about that.
So who will I be hearing from with all those prizes at the end
You
of
will automatically receive an email from our marketing department within a month after the walk for you to choose which prize you want. So it's very similar to what happened last year and for Long Island.
Long Island? How will I get the prize since the mail's been slow?
Well, they'll mail your prize to you, so it probably will be kind of delayed, unfortunately.
Looking in the new year, I had another question. What in-person events were you guys planning for the new year with all these changes?
So right now we don't have any in-person events planned, because at this point it's just too hard to plan ahead without fully knowing what's going to happen. I mean, things seem to be changing every week and every month, and so we aren't planning too far ahead. We haven't planned any in-person events at this stage. We want everybody to stay safe and be careful, and we don't want to jump the gun. So we don't have anything planned at this point. Ideally we would have some sort of in-person event a year from now, and it would be some sort of party for a purpose event, but so much can change in a year, especially during this time, that we aren't able to really say for sure.
Sophie, great interviewing you, and thank you. And I asked you some good questions.
This was wonderful, Oscar. I had so much fun chatting with you, and I'm so glad you set this up. Well, thank you so much, Oscar, and I will talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.